House File 2627. Representative Carroll, welcome.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Committee. I'm going to move that this bill be referred to the Committee on Capital Investment.
Great. And would you like to take a minute and tell us about your bill?
Sure. So this is about solar on closed landfills. And as my mother-in-law would say, it's a might as well. So if you're doing something and if another opportunity presents itself, you might as well do that. So I look at that as my mother-in-law's might as well bill. And I'll turn it over to my testifier to explain it.
Welcome, Mr. Logan O'Grady. State your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Logan O'Grady. I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota Solar Energy Industries Association. By now, I think you're all familiar with me and Mencia, but just as a reminder, we are a 501c6 trade organization made up of over 140 member companies, all working within and throughout the solar and energy storage industries in Minnesota. Our member companies altogether employ over 5,000 Minnesotans throughout the state. I want to thank Representative Carroll for authoring this bill. I think it's a great way to implement solar on otherwise unusable land. Really, it's an opportunity for us to transform over 4,500 acres of otherwise unusable land into 950 megawatts of solar, enough to power 100,000 Minnesota homes. The grant breaks down barriers, retiring outstanding GO bonds that limit the use of solar on closed landfills, and provide upfront capital assistance in the development of closed landfills, as the complexity and unique features of siting solar on landfills can add up in costs. Again, our role as an industry organization is to provide an industry perspective. We compete in a 50-state market, and tools like this are tools in our toolbox to deploy more solar and more clean energy. So they're really business signals that Minnesota is a great place to do business. Other than that, I would say that DG solar like this also strengthens our grid, makes it more efficient, lowering distribution needs and reducing transmission loss, more resilient to extreme weather events, and more secure, reducing reliance on singular localized power plants, and it will help meet our clean energy needs. So I can stick around. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. O'Grady. Would anyone else like to testify to this bill that's here today? Seeing none, and we'll turn to members' questions. Representative Swedzinski.
Thank you. So this is 2627, Madam Chair? That's the correct bill?
Yes.
Okay.
House Bill
Just a general question. In the testifier noticed that there was going to be 4,500 acres of land that would be potentially opened up to this. If this were to pass, would this money obligate all those grounds to open up all 4,500 acres?
Mr. O'Grady.
Madam Chair, Representative Swedzinski, no, this is just a start. The Environmental Quality Board conducted a study that was released in 2020 that looked at 110 potential sites. Of those, there are kind of a top 5, and they looked at a number of different factors, including where are they in terms of interconnection to the utility, what makes the most sense. And so this bill is targeted at putting solar on those first 5 that are really great opportunities for solar.
Representative Swedzinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So of those 5, where are those 5?
Mr. O'Grady.
Madam Chair, Representative Swedzinski, they're a mix. I can get you the list, but they're a mix of in and out of Excel territory, about half and half.
Representative Swedzinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are we talking industrial solar installations? Are we talking solar garden installations? What are we talking about?
Mr. O'Grady.
Madam Chair, Representative Swedzinski, it kind of depends on the site and what they could fit. Most sites can accommodate up to 1 megawatt, which could be either just a behind the meter, depending on the use of the energy at the site, depending on the ownership as well. It could be a public ownership, so it could be distributed to public buildings, for example, or it could accommodate a solar garden if that was an object.
Representative Swedzinski.
Yes. Will there any be recoup? Because the state taxpayers and ratepayers are actually the ones funding to allow this development, will there be any recuperation of the funds of essentially the profits that are gathered by developing this over the top of that to repay the ratepayers and the taxpayers of Minnesota?
Mr. O'Grady.
Madam Chair, Representative Swedzinski, as we know, a great portion of the Community Solar Garden program is that is credited to the people that sign up for the solar garden in that specific area. So those people will be receiving a bill credit for that.
Representative Swazinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So approximately, this is going to cost taxpayers and ratepayers $10 million just to not develop the land, but just allow it to be developed. Am I correct? Then how much per acre of development is that cost of these 5 locations that are in and out of XL Energy territory?
Mr. O'Grady.
So, Madam Chair, Representative Swazinski, as I said, pretty much every single site within the EQB study can accommodate up to 1 megawatt of solar. You know, a 1 megawatt solar array could be anywhere from $800 to $1 million. So, and those take up 8 to 10 acres of land roughly.
Representative Swazinski.
Madam Chair, I misspoke. I apologize. I said it was $10 million. It's actually 20. So it's $20 million. So this will allow for the $20 million will allow for the development of 5 locations. That's what we're saying. So 5 landfills. That's what we're talking about.
Mr. O'Grady.
Madam Chair, Representative Swazinski, there's 2 purposes to this bill. The first is to pay off outstanding general obligation bonds. That's precluding development like this on this land because you cannot put revenue generating systems on public land encumbered by GO bonds. And we are still working with MMB and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency on that issue to figure out exactly how to do that. So there's bonds in there that are, there's money in there appropriated to pay off those bonds. So that would be one purpose of the bill. The other purpose of the bill would be to provide upfront grant money for solar installations. As we know, the price of solar has dropped over the last decade, but it still is, the initial capital costs often is a challenge, especially to local units of government who oftentimes own these sites. So providing upfront grant money can help mitigate those barriers to developing solar on these sites.
Madam Chair.
Representative Swazinski.
Thank you. So you're going to use, my guess is that you'd use a community solar program on top of this. Then on top of that, you want a grant on top of that to develop these.
Mr. O'Grady.
Madam Chair, Representative Swazinski, they may or may not put a solar garden on there. They might choose to, the owners of the land. That would be up to them.
Representative Swazinski.
Madam Chair, would the author of the bill or would the testifier of the bill would at least allow the disallowance of multiple, layering these different programs? We already have a program that overpays for solar by 4 or 5 times of market rate with the community solar program, which another bill looks to expand that tremendously. And then we're going to allow folks to layer that with a grant. Would you at least allow that you can use one or the other? Like you can't use solar, but you can't have a grant, or you could have a grant but not use solar gardens? Would you be open to that as far as, so that we at least have a little bit of, responsibility to ratepayers and taxpayers and the development of these programs?
Mr. O'Grady.
Madam Chair, Representative Swazinski, as a trade organization, our goal is to advance a competitive marketplace. So I think that would be an interruption into a competitive market, and it would interrupt Minnesota's choice of what they want to do with that property.
Representative Swazinski.
Madam Chair, and then, I don't think there's anything about competitive when we're dealing with, ratepayers and taxpayers forking the bill to subsidize this program. And then on top of it, you get to also charge 4 times the rate by choosing which program you're going to submit the energy you produce into the system. I'm just asking, can we have a little bit of respect for taxpayers and ratepayers when it comes to that you're not doubling up on the multiplicity of these programs, and it doesn't sound like that's even an option.
Representative Carroll.
Madam Chair, Representative Sawinski, you raise a point, and I'd be happy to have continued discussions with you. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I wanted. Thank you.
You bet.
Representative Altendorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Carroll. If you could just explain to me, just really basic level, as we are, again, it was a little bit following his questions, but with the $20 million investment from the taxpayers and then the RDA, what is the benefit? I would like to know, like, a cost analysis, because usually if you invest in something, you want the what do you get back? So just really, really basic, what is the payback on this on this project?
Thank you for that question. I'll let Mr. O'Grady answer that.
Go ahead, Mr. O'Grady.
Madam Chair, Representative Altendorf, I think it's a broad question, but if you look at solar broadly and specifically in this opportunity here is you're not doing anything economically with this land as it already exists, right? You can't do anything else with it really. So the opportunity here is to raise the economic use of otherwise unusable land. A lot of that land is owned by public entities, and so if you're building solar on it, that public entity then can lower their utility bills, not only at that site, but potentially at other public sites. So you'd have a monthly savings in your energy cost because you'd be producing it and using it yourself.
And then Representative Altendorf, I also was just brought to my attention, I wasn't necessarily thinking about it, but the bonds are going to be paid off by the state anyway. It's just being paid off at a different rate. So just keeping that in mind.
Okay.
Representative Altendorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that answers my question.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. Representative Carroll, would you like to make any closing comments?
I just appreciate your support, and we'll refer it on to Commerce.
And with that, Representative Carroll renews his motion that House File 2627 be re-referred to the Committee on Capital Investment. All those in favor? Oop,
You're right. Sorry, I misspoke. Capital investment.
you're all good. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. No. Motion prevails, and your bill is on its way to capital investment.